This video is brought to you by the fine folks at the Time Variance Authority. While traveling along the sacred timeline, you'll discover a number of cultural highlights and celebrations. Just check out these little rugrats going house to house begging for candy. Every October 31st, the streets are overrun with costumed children dressing up like all kinds of frightening individuals. Halloween is a time for celebrating our favorite villains, which is exactly what we are about to do. So settle in, listen up, and check this out. In this episode of McDonald's Unboxed, we'll explore two villainous variants who've invaded your local McDonald's. The Norse God of Mischief and the Evil Grimace. Now then, if this is your first time checking us out, go ahead and hit that like button, and why not supersize your experience by subscribing to Retro Spectrum. For all time, always.
1962 was kind of a crazy year for confrontation. James Bond took on the nefarious Dr. No. King Kong battled it out with Godzilla. Atticus Finch stood up against injustice in the classic film To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh, and there was also this little thing called the Cuban Missile Crisis. Maybe you heard of it? It was also the first time the mighty Thor took on the Norse God of Mischief, at least over at Marvel Comics. Stan Lee and Larry Lieber teamed up with the legendary Jack Kirby in order to bring us this modern version of Loki. 1 year later, Loki wound up the catalyst, bringing together the world's mightiest heroes in Avengers #1. For the next few years, Loki would continue to make appearances in comic book panels and then leapt onto television sets in the Mighty Thor animated series.
At last I've been revenged! Thor, my ancient enemy, never again will oppose me!
Animation was extremely popular amongst children, but programs for kids started to evolve a bit in the late 60s. The Banana Splits Adventure Hour was just a strange variety show combining live action, animation, music, and lots of wacky costumed characters. And speaking of those costumes, Sid and Marty Krofft were responsible for the Banana Splits. The popularity of this program helped to propel the Kroffts' reputation as creative visionaries, experimenting in the world of children's entertainment. Soon, Sid and Marty were asked to develop their own Saturday morning television series. What they came up with included talking flutes, dancing trees, a witch riding around on a rocket-powered broomstick, and a dragon-turned-bureaucrat named H.R. Pufnstuf. Now, the folks over at McDonald's must have been fans of the show because in 1971, well, they kind of borrowed a few ideas from the Krofft. Some would say hijacked, which is probably fair. McDonaldland was a magical place full of apple pie trees, a garden full of hamburgers, and a giant purple monster obsessed with milkshakes.
Where's the Coke? Where are the shakes?
Now, for anyone who may have missed the memo, the Grimace's official birthday is June 12th, 1971. What you may not know is that originally he was known as the Evil Grimace, and he had 4 arms in order to steal even more milkshakes. Even in those early appearances, he'd appear a bit simple, but that's what we love about him. In 1973, Sid and Marty Krofft sued the restaurant franchise over McDonaldland and its similarities to H.R. Pufnstuf. The most obvious example is Mayor McCheese, who seems to model himself after Pufnstuf. Grimace bears a slight resemblance to Seymour Spider, which accounts for why they ditched 2 of his arms early on. He also ditched the evil moniker, becoming something of a sidekick for Ronald. You know, McDonaldland looks like a crazy place, but I can't imagine it's anywhere as fun as
Asgard.
all those Viking gods battling it out with frost giants, chugging mead, hand over fist. If only they had a banquet hall full of chicken McNuggets. Now, during the 1970s, Loki thought it might be fun to take over the realm of Asgard, and even managed to swap bodies with his brother Thor, the god of thunder. Now, while it didn't last long, it was a neat little trick he'd remember.
Costume's a bit much.
Transformation was kind of becoming part of Loki's brand, creating multiple variations of the god, like Lady Loki and the fan favorite Kid Loki. But hey now, the Grimace also had his fair share of variants over the past several decades. He's been a Happy Meal toy, an animated Grimace, a prison for small children, an NPC on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and even a pool float.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's got to be like a daily thing that someone walks up to me and says, "Hey, Retro Spectrum, where'd you get your giant purple Grimace pool float?" I'm getting a little lightheaded. And I have to break the news to them that these things were given out during the 2022 Camp McDonald's merchandising campaign, and not too many people walked out with one of these. The only thing I can think of that's any harder is actually blowing the thing up. And I already got a breath. But the secret to getting one of these bad boys, if you have the app,
Marvel's Loki made his cinematic debut in the 2011 film Thor. And while this version of the character was interesting enough, I guess I didn't really fall in love with the character until The Avengers the following year.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
Tom Hiddleston is amazing, and I love the fact that Marvel Studios even gave Loki his own live-action television series on Disney+. The Grimace, while deserving, has yet to receive his own series, but he did receive a signature milkshake in 2023 that took the internet by storm. Scores of content creators seemed completely enamored by the dessert, celebrating Grimace's birthday. The Grimace Shake wound up being this strange cultural obsession for a time, but McDonald's wasn't done with its non-traditional marketing ideas. They also had developed a Grimace video game that had the purple beast doing heel flips and alley-oops like Tony Hawk. If that's not strange enough, it was the first new Game Boy Color release in 20 years and can be played online. 2023 would also bring us the As Featured In meal, celebrating some of the wonderful McDonald's cameos on film and television. My favorite moments include The Fifth Element,
2 golden menus,
and Coming to America.
See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's. Huh? I see they got the Big Mac. I got the Big Mick.
Looking forward, we've got another exciting cameo coming up in Season 2 of Loki. It looks like the God of Mischief will have to visit a Mickey D's circa 1982 in search of his female variant Sylvie.
Not going in until I get some apple pie.
The aesthetic in that restaurant was so cool, so nostalgic. McDonald's even decided to recreate the scene in Brooklyn, New York. Take a look. McDonald's customers visiting the Bensonhurst location could travel back in time to experience what the restaurant would have felt like back in 1982. The classic menus, the fancy decor, outstanding fashion, plus I even hear you could snag a selfie with Mayor McCheese and Grimace. Did they have selfies back in the 1980s? But hey, if you couldn't make the commute to Brooklyn, your local McDonald's was offering sweet and sour sauce with the Loki logo. Not a huge deal, but let's be honest. Sweet and sour sauce is the best option for McNuggets. And anyone dipping those ridiculously delicious golden nuggets in ranch dressing should be pruned by the TVA. Now, if you don't agree, you better call me out in the comments section below. You know, all in all, I think it's been a pretty cool year for reformed villains at McDonald's. And who knows? Maybe next year we'll get a Captain Crook's booty shake and a Boba Fett Big Mac. But until then, I want to hear from you. Are you a fan of either Loki or the Grimace? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed our little video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Retro Spectrum.